Going live February 21st, 4:05 p.m. This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV.com with my weekly review of Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer newsletter. The first thing I'll get into is WWE attendances, the NXT TakeOver big special in Portland drew 7,800 fans. NXT February 1st in Orlando drew 350 fans. February 3rd, WWE did a Raw main event taping before 9,000 fans in Salt Lake City. February 5th, NXT had 400 for their tapings at Full Sail. February 7th, SmackDown / 205 tapings in San Jose, 6,500. February 9th, WWE Super Show in Fresno, mixing the rosters, of course, 5,900. February 10th, Raw in Ontario, California, 7,100. February 12th, NXT Full Sail, 400. February 14th was the first TV taping in Vancouver in nearly 20 years, had 14,382 fans, which has to be one of the biggest SmackDown attendances in recent memory. Have not seen numbers that high in a long time. NXT in Tampa, February 14th, had 450 fans. February 15th, NXT in Fort Pierce had 300 fans. February 16th, there was a WWE Super Show in Kenwick that had 4,500 fans, which was more than they drew for the Raw this week, February 17th, just outside of Seattle in Everett, Washington. They had 3,650 fans in attendance. NXT TV this Wednesday had 400 fans. Davey Boy Smith, Jushin Liger, the Bella Twins, Hogan, Nash, Hall, and Sean Waltman have all been confirmed for the May 2nd WWE Hall of Fame ceremony in Tampa. Davey Boy Smith's induction is long overdue, and Harry Smith will be part of the Great North Wrestling event August 8th in Ottawa. He is the Hannibal TV champion, and he'll defend that title on that event. For your wrestling questions, I'll get to them after my update. Ted DiBiase, WWE Hall of Famer, 66, ended up being attached to the embezzlement charges his son Brett is involved with. Ted's Heart of David Ministries company, which I guess is some sort of ministry. People pay him to go and give speeches in churches. It was struggling, according to reports, until Brett was hired as a deputy administrator at the Mississippi Department of Human Services 3 years ago. Since then, Ted's Ministries received $2,126,739, including a $900,000 payment in 1 year from that department. So obviously some shady dealings going on there with Ted and his son. His son is being indicted in the involvement related to that. Apparently WWE has been in talks with ESPN. This could be related to WWE's pay-per-view content being on ESPN Plus. This might be a deal, according to Meltzer, similar to what UFC has with ESPN Plus, where they would sell the rights to their pay-per-views to a streaming service that would pay more than WWE would make having the shows as part of the network, for instance. Tito Ortiz has apparently been training at the Performance Center in WWE the past few weeks. I did do a career interview with him a few years ago. Look it up here on the Hannibal TV. He's now 45, but he's wanted to be in wrestling for a long time. According to the Observer, he has not been signed yet. This is more of a situation where he's seeing if he likes the training and if they're seeing if they like him. The Sun in the UK has reported that WWE is considering bringing SummerSlam or WrestleMania to the UK, very likely at Wembley Stadium in the next few years. George Murdoch, aka Brodus Clay, and Ariane Andrews, who was Cameron, who I also interviewed here on the Hannibal TV. Search it up. I interviewed her not too long ago. Apparently have been contacted about possibly being a part of WrestleMania. Brock Lesnar is going to be at next week's Raw in Winnipeg, as well as the March 2nd Raw in Brooklyn. Apparently they're doing 2-for-1 tickets right now for the Brooklyn show. As far as the Raw in Winnipeg, Lesnar lives close to Winnipeg. I know he attends Winnipeg Jets games. And back before they even had him on TV, he was doing house show matches in Winnipeg. So I have a feeling Lesnar is going to get very much a babyface reception in Winnipeg. MVP confirmed that he's been hired as a producer in WWE. Sheldon Benjamin confirmed that he signed a new multi-year deal with WWE at 44 years old. He also said that he doesn't like how he's currently being used. But the wrestling business is about making money. So if you're making money and you're secure for another multi-year deal, great for him. Matt Hardy apparently hasn't re-signed anywhere. He's going to be a free agent in a few weeks when his contract expires. AEW did a 0.31 rating this week, which was once again more than NXT did. I forgot to write it down, but I believe NXT did around a 0.24. So both very low ratings overall. February 5th in Huntsville, AEW drew 2,900 to their tapings. February 12th in Atlanta this week, they're in a 21,000 seat building. They heavily promoted it, and they had 5,500 fans in attendance, which is more than Raw had. New Japan was also in Atlanta February 2nd, and they drew 855 fans. In UFC news, their February 15th event in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, just outside of Albuquerque, drew 6,449 fans with a gate of 596,820. Jan Blachowicz, and I know I'm mispronouncing that wrong. I am really sorry. These names are impossible to pronounce. And UFC, there's very few fighters, because it's not a work, that actually stay stars for a long period of time. So you're getting new names like this every week. Anyways, he knocked out Corey Anderson in just over 3 minutes. John Jones was in the crowd. He challenged Jones. Jones, there's been talk that he may go to WWE. He said he's bound to be in WWE at some point, but this looks like it could be his next fight, even though the Dominic Reyes fight was very controversial, but maybe Jones doesn't want to face Reyes again for that very reason. The New York Post did a story on the UFC that said it paid out $300 million in dividends recently to investors, which was based on huge profits. They grossed about $937 million this past year, which was actually lower than WWE, which grossed $960 million. UFC only paid their talent $150 million out of that $937 million gross. I've said it before, To start in UFC, apparently the general rule is you make 10,000 to show up, 10,000 to win. There are some extremely high-paid fighters like the Conor McGregors of the world and the John Joneses of the world, but there's a huge gap in pay. So for getting your brains beat out, it seems low that UFC basically pays their fighters 16% of the gross revenue, which is much less than NFL pays and NBA and so forth. The official number for the Bellator January 25th event at the LA Forum, where Chris Cyborg beat Julia Budd, was 6,393 fans, paid 7,593 total in the building, with a $500,427 gate. So that's pretty good for Bellator. I did do a mini phone interview with Billy Jack Haynes just now. It was mainly about Rip Oliver, who's in serious condition right now at the hospital. So prayers go out to him. It doesn't look like he's going to pull through this time. I'm going to try and post that clip of Billy updating us tonight. Speaking of Billy, Labrador Retriever Mix commented they need to get Billy Jack Haynes back on the roster in WWE to stir shit up. That would be interesting, actually. Very interesting, although I don't know how well he would work with writers. Derek J says he'll see me March 8th. I will be attending that WrestleFest in Albany March 8th. I'll be interviewing Tony Atlas that weekend in a career interview, maybe more. I don't know yet, but I hope to get a bunch of short interviews at that WrestleFest. Shadow Andrew, what do I think about Meltzer's high opinion of AEW versus Cornette's low opinion? Well, Dave Meltzer is close friends with all those executives. So, of course, he's biased. Jim Cornette doesn't like a lot of the stuff that happens in AEW. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't listen to Jim Cornette's podcast. I haven't heard most of it, so I can't really comment on it. I understand where Jim Cornette's coming from with a lot of that stuff. Dave Meltzer is really biased towards AEW, but some of the stuff he says has merit. But as far as the casual fans, are they interested? And I mean, I heard on the here's a comment I heard recently that this Darby Allin is going to be the next great superstar, and he would have done great in the WWE in the late 90s. Well, no, he's so small, he would have never been in the WWE in the late 90s. They didn't use wrestlers that looked like kids and give them pushes in the late 90s. I have nothing against the guy. The business has changed, but to say that some of these guys would have been popular in the Attitude Era is laughable to me. But I'm neutral towards AEW. I don't watch it. I can't really comment on it. It doesn't interest me. It doesn't really interest me. It's great that wrestlers are making a lot of money there, though. Am I going to the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony? No. I myself am not actually going to Tampa. I'll be having representatives there working with Billy Jack Haynes and Mike McGurk. I hate WrestleMania. I'll be perfectly honest. I hate the whole festivities. I don't want anything to do with it. I will be in Phoenix and LA the week before doing interviews. Couple more questions here. Devious One NM says Cody seems thin-skinned. He likes to throw around words like transphobic, which I think is one of the stupidest words ever. Like, I'm sorry, it's just ridiculous. If you don't like Nyla Rose, you're transphobic. Why? Because you don't want to see like this. To me, that's not women's wrestling. That's just my opinion. I like watching hot girls fight or wrestle. So just because I'm not interested in seeing a transgender wrestle a woman, does that mean I'm afraid of transgender people? No. I don't like a lot of wrestling. I don't like watching small people wrestle either. Does that make me scared of small wrestlers? I don't know. The support says orange juice is something that is as bad as the 24/7 belt. I'm guessing he's referring to Orange Cassidy. I've as I said, I only watched the first episode of AEW. Didn't like it. I've only seen Twitter clips since. Dark Order and Orange Cassidy is stuff I changed the channel on. This other person says ditto to that. A couple more questions. Colonel Quayle says Val Venus needs to come back as a kind of bud dude wrestler plus weed gimmick. Well, that might be too controversial for WWE. Cody Rhodes has already said AEW doesn't want Val Venus anywhere near him. Maybe one of the lower companies would go for something like that. I don't think Val is interested in wrestling much anymore. He's really happy with what he does. That's the impression I got from him. AEW is trying to cater to a politically correct society, Big Richard says. And it's funny that wrestling has become so politically correct because the whole fun of wrestling used to be that it wasn't politically correct. Now, I mean, what was it? A few months ago, Sami Zayn had a fan thrown out of the ring because the fan called him a faggot. I don't know if Zayn is gay or not. But like really, I know I don't agree with that word, but you're a wrestler. I've been called a faggot lots of times as a wrestler. I've been called all sorts of names. People call me a retard all the time. People call me autistic all the time. I mean, it's wrestling. Have thicker skin. Those are paying customers for what is it for a front row seat at WWE event? It's in the hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars, and they have been having problems drawing. So to throw fans out for ridiculous stuff, it sucks. Per Dado Funk says Nyla Rose is not a draw. Big Richard, why doesn't anyone go against the grain and keep kayfabe 24/7? Don't know. Ever try to do an interview with Ricky Steamboat? Yes, and he said he did. He doesn't do them, or his agent, whoever was bringing him to my town on the comedy tour when he was in this area, when I tried to interview him, said he didn't do them. Anthony Mazzano, do I know the exact dates of when the contracts are up of Jacob Fatu and the Von Erich boys, Brian Pillman? Well, I do know Jacob Fatu just recently re-signed for a year, and the Von Erichs recently re-signed too. I know the schedule is really easy for those guys. I don't know what kind of money they're being paid. Ralph Vaquero asked me, ever coming to Nevada? Nevada, yes. I go to Nevada very often, and I'll be there for the Cauliflower Alley reunion this year that I will be covering for the Hannibal TV. So I'll close it off at that. Don't forget, next Saturday night, if you live in the Ottawa, Smith Falls, Kingston, Cornwall, Brockville area, Great North Wrestling in Smith Falls with Haku Barbarian, Too Cold Scorpio, Lufisto, Carl the Duke, Jeremy Prophet, Blood Hunter, and I am even going to be on the card wrestling a girl. I think she's something like 5'5", 190-pound bodybuilder who has done MMA before, and she's going to see if she can beat me in an amateur wrestling match. So more information on that at thehannibaltv.com. Tickets are on sale now at ticketpro.ca for that one, and our 13th anniversary event featuring Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Ted Hart, if he can make it. As of now, Ted Hart's supposed to be on that in a rematch against the Blood Hunter. I'll let you guys know if anything changes and we have to replace him. But as of now, not heard anything that he will not be at that event, August 8th in Ottawa. Tickets for that one are at ticketweb.ca. And we are on Instagram and Twitter at the Hannibal TV. I also post these Wrestling Observer reviews on the Great North Wrestling Podcast, which is on iTunes, and also at greatnorthwrestling.podomatic.com. Motor Stash's Chokeslammer. Well, let me just say one more thing about this amateur wrestling match I'm going to have against a female next Saturday. It will be a shoot amateur wrestling match. We're going to see if a female really has a chance against beating a male. Granted, this is a bodybuilder female, but a female nonetheless. And I'm not going to hit her. This is an amateur wrestling exhibition, friendly match, and we're going to see how it goes. I haven't even amateur wrestled for a long time, so I'm not even going to be warmed up for this. So it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I hope someone says, I hope that I don't lose. I don't lose very often in amateur wrestling. I'm pretty good. I can't even remember the last time I was pinned. It may have been my freshman year of high school, or I was very rarely pinned in my amateur wrestling career. And as I got better, yeah, I did lose on points from time to time, but I was pretty good. Maybe not the most technical, but I was a good amateur wrestler. Good enough to be national champion all the way back in 2001, where I won them in London, Ontario. And I was also in Winnipeg, Manitoba, when I got second at the Olympic trials for the London Games in Greco-Roman wrestling. So I'm not that bad of an amateur wrestler, even though I'm out of practice. Have a good afternoon, everybody.